Alrighty, so the new Megellda is coming out tomorrow on Global, and it is a 242 banner. So if you're unaware, it is a step-up banner, which is pretty nice, honestly, if you don't know how that works. Basically, you get a 1 gem multi, so it's basically free. I mean, it's not hard to get 1 gem, but you get a 1 gem multi on step 2, and on step 7, you get a guaranteed SSR on step 5, and you get the character guaranteed on step 10. So it's really cheap to get a character like this. They don't do a whole lot of step up banners anymore. They used to be a lot more relevant like in year 1 and year 2 of the game, but they have sort of just kind of moved past that. They do like maybe 1, maybe 2 of these a year. So it's normally worth grabbing a character, depending on what the character is, of course. I want to say the last character that I regretted not summoning for this was, I'm pretty sure Ragnarok Bond was on a step-up banner like this, and I was like, he doesn't really seem all that great, but he ended up being like one of the most relevant backliners of all time, which is kind of hilarious that I ended up skipping that. But yeah, this new Megellda is very interesting. I think a lot of people were really confused whenever she kind of got leaked. We basically known that she was coming for the last like 2 weeks or so. But I don't know. She's just kind of a very interesting character. If you don't know what she does, we'll go over it really quickly because she isn't out on Global yet. So these are, the rough translations. I would say they're pretty accurate. They normally are. But sometimes there's like small translation tweaks here and there from whenever it comes out on Global. So she is, of course, red. The old Megellda is a blue, and her passive works in all demonic beast battles, which is very, very interesting. A lot of people were thinking that this was going to be like the unit to have for Nidhogg. I don't really know if that's the case or not yet. I think it's a little too soon to tell, but she does work in Nidhogg. And she works reasonably well if you can actually get a decent team together for her. So her passive works in all of Demonic Beast battles, and it is, for every time the hero uses a skill, increases allies' HP-related stats, so that's recovery rate, regeneration rate, lifesteal, and HP, by 6% up to a maximum of 30%. So that's pretty good. That's like, 5 stacks? And increases the ultimate move gauge by 1. So she kind of has that sort of Red Thonar thing going on, which is really, really nice to ult rush. And honestly, ults are just tremendous. A lot of ults hit, really, really hard nowadays. If you have, the one Escanor or Freyr on your team, those ults hit twice. So if you can hit damage cap with those and do it, and it hits twice, that's always a really good way to burst down a lot of the demonic beasts. When the hero cleanses debuffs with skills, recover 20% of the allies' max HP. So it's really interesting. She has a cleanse skill. It's really a solidify skill, but you can see right here at level 1, it removes debuffs from allies, which is okay. It's not great, but that's, a pretty typical sort of skill for level 1. Nidhogg does have a lot of debuffs involved, where you're going to have to deal with, I think it's like poison and maybe even bleed. I can't remember exactly. I haven't messed with Nidhogg too much at the moment. But the little like spore plant thing that you face, I think it's in phase 1. Yeah, it's definitely phase 1. He puts a lot of debuffs on you, and then in phase 2 they can extort you. And so it's just, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of debuffs that you kind of need to remove. It's a little, I really wish this character would have had debuff immunity in some way. Currently at the moment, people are using Blue Elat, and that is because she has a cleanse card and her ultimate has debuff immunity, which is really, really nice. Plus it increases defense related stats, which is really, really helpful for surviving. But this Megellda removes debuffs, and she solidifies on rank 2 and rank 3. So solidify is not a crazy useful skill, but it gives you plus 30% resistance for 3 turns, which is a pretty good amount of resistance. Resistance is always like a really nice, like, I think it's like a more or less like an overshadowed skill a lot of the times, or I say skill, stat. Because if you have really high resistance, you can patience skills and stuff like that quite easily. So there's potential for this to be really good. Obviously, if you can put on a lot of stacks of buffs and everything like that, amplify characters become really, really relevant with these kind of units. But the big problem that everybody has is that her Holy Relic only works for Hrosvelgur, which is the bird boss. And from the videos that I've seen, this cleanse skill doesn't even proc the Holy Relic for whatever reason. So it's because it has to be a recovery skill, which is just really bad. Like, the fact that this character already has a Holy Relic, it's not for any of the other bosses except for the bird boss, means that, this character's not really super relevant unless you're just, I don't know. I don't want to say she's not relevant, but I want to say that she's losing value in that sense, because there's obviously a whole category, a whole extra passive that she could be using, but it doesn't meet the recommended or required criteria to proc, which is very unfortunate. So her other skill is just a deplete ultimate move gauge orb one, which is pretty meh. It's not really that great, to be honest. And then she has the normal Power Strike ult that the other one has. She does share costumes with the other one, so that's very, very good. If you already have the old Megellda invested into, this is kind of like an easy, grab this character for cheap. You've already got her costumes and stuff like that. She could be potentially very useful in the future. I think the biggest thing is that they're kind of steering Nidhogg in this goddess team direction, but with this character coming out, and I've seen, people mess around with her on different or the different game modes. I've seen Bird Boss run, I've seen Deer Boss run, I've seen Skull and Hati runs with her, and then I've seen Nidhogg runs, and she seems very good in all of those. The fact that she's increasing your HP related stats makes you a lot tankier, gives you a lot more lifesteal, makes it to where you can just gain your health back a lot faster. The regeneration and recovery rate is super nice. So it's going to make it a lot harder for you to die, or just maybe a lot easier for you to survive, which could be very, very helpful. I think I made videos this past week on what team I use to farm: the bird, the deer, and the dogs. And those are all sort of, besides the deer necessarily, I think the bird and the dogs team that I use are supposed to be pure damage, fast farm, get it over with. Whereas the deer, you kind of have to worry about the color rotation wheel and things like that, which can kind of slow you down a little bit, but it's still really easy, especially if you have Jormungandr with her Holy Relic. That skyrockets your, damage output by quite a bit. But, yeah, I don't know. This character can be used in all the game modes. She's pretty good at what she does, from my understanding. I'm definitely going to grab a copy just in case. There is potential that, we might end up seeing more of a Ragnarok team become the meta for Nidhogg at some point, which is weird to say considering that, they're sort of pushing this goddess sort of agenda, I guess. I can't remember exactly what the new card set's wording is, if I'm not mistaken. Let me try to find that really quickly. Hold on one moment. Okay, so the new card set requires the Skull and Hati card, and it increases attack-related stats by N% when all Demonic Beast Battle characters, or when all allies in Demonic Beast Battle are the same race. So all the, I don't want to say all, but most of the Ragnarok characters end up being unknown race. So Megellda's unknown race. Technically Freya is unknown race. Freyr is unknown race. I think Thonar is considered a human, so that this card set might not necessarily help in situations like that. But with the new boss being sort of driven into a single race sort of meta, it could be potentially that the unknown team sort of takes a decent spot at some point in the near future with this Megellda coming out. So I think this card set is going to be a really big indicator on how they want this sort of game mode to be played. And if you haven't seen Merilli, he does a lot of experimenting, especially with this new Megellda. He's done several videos already, but he's already done videos of running Nidhogg floor 3, and he's beat it, which he's played the game mode quite a bit. He's been able to beat it with the normal sort of meta team that people have been using, so that's really cool. But honestly, it's just kind of impressive to see him sort of take this new unit, throw him straight into the into the action. You can see he uses him in Deer Boss here, uses him in Skull and Hati. He uses him in Skull and Hati without Thonar, which is a pretty big feat. I know a lot of people, if you don't have the character that's meant for each boss, it's kind of a daunting task to sort of take it on. But overall, I think that the character has a lot of potential to be really good. I know a lot of people are saying that whenever Blue Megellda sort of came out, she wasn't really all that impressive until she got a Holy Relic, and that Holy Relic really made Trader Melee super good for the bird. And obviously, we're not going to be able to get a new Holy Relic for this character, of course. But depending on the characters that come out in the near future, depending on their passives, whatever kind of I guess boss, or not boss, like specific unit for Nidhogg they end up releasing. Depending on how that unit plays and the requirements to meet their passive and stuff like that, this Megellda might slot in perfectly. There's a lot of speculation that there might be a second Ragnarok banner that comes out right after this one, which they've done in the past. I want to say, I can't remember exactly what the lineup was, but I want to say like Ragnarok Bond came out right before Thonar maybe, or there was some sort of like weird banner thing that they did where they did a step up. They did a 600 Ragnarok banner right after that, and the two characters sort of like coincided with each other a little bit, or just helped each other, or ended up being, you know, a unit that of relevance for one of the demonic beast battles. I can't remember the specifics on it at the moment, but yeah, I think that she's definitely a character that to look into. She's very interesting. She has a lot of potential to be very good in the future. And to get her this cheap is kind of hard to pass up on. I know, I understand, we just got out of a bunch of different festivals and characters that a lot of people really wanted. We just got Mayel, you know, we just came out of the New Year's stuff with Melly and Escanor. So you're probably tapped. You're probably, you know, you probably don't have a whole lot of gems right now. I know a lot of people are saving up for the potential collab that's coming up soon. But if you have the gems to spare, I do recommend grabbing a copy of her while you can, just because she's so cheap and there's a lot of potential for her to be like the character to run, or just help you speed up some of your runs and stuff like that. The fact that she has the extra like ultimate move gauge orb on skill use, like that alone is going to help you, you know, grab ults, hit damage caps very consistently. It's going to be really nice. So we'll kind of have to see how it goes. I'll definitely mess around with the character and everything. We're going to be summoning for her whenever she comes out. And yeah, I'll probably mess around with all of the demonic beasts over and over again. So yeah, I don't know. We'll kind of have to see. It's a little bit of a dead week as far as like the rest of the patch notes for this one goes. So this will probably be all that's really new and to like actually active like stuff to mess around with, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see. I'll leave a link to Marili's channel if you want to see her in action. He plays on JP, of course, so he's already had the unit for about a week now, and you can kind of see her performance on some of these game modes, because I think he does a really good job of showing her off. So that's pretty much it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this new Megellda, because I definitely want to hear from you and see what you think about the new character. I'm sure some of you have probably already seen some videos on her. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know if you're planning on summoning her or not, because I don't know. She's kind of one of those characters where it doesn't really seem like she's like a must-have at the moment, but I think she's good enough and decent to the point to where you might want to go ahead and grab her while you can. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me. Feel free to subscribe, all that good stuff. See you in the next one.